Namaskar friends, welcome to Astrology Jyotish channel. Do you know how to identify if a particular moon sign or Rashi is going through Saturn's Sade Sati period or a Daya period? If not, then today's video would certainly help you regarding the same. So most of the people would have heard about Planet Saturn Sade Sati period. While this Sade Sati period is mostly considered to be a difficult phase in one's life, it is also likely to be a rewarding one at the end of this period. So the term Sade Sati means a period of 7.5 years of duration. So let's understand why it is called Sade Sati using a sample horoscope over here. As per the current Gochar, Saturn is currently transiting in its own sign Aquarius or Kumbh Rashi. So as you might already be aware, Saturn spends 2.5 years in each sign. Okay, so when so basically here we have also mentioned that there are three phases of Sade Sati: first, second, and third phase. And combining these three phases, each of 2.5 years, total Sade Sati period is coming to approximately 7.5 years. So if we are currently looking at the Aquarius or the Kumbh Rashi over here, the first phase of Kumbh Rashi's Sade Sati would have been started when Saturn was positioned in the 12th house of it. Okay, so 12th house is a Capricorn sign, and that way we can say that, let's say Saturn was there in the 9th Rashi, which is Sagittarius, and when Saturn transited to the 10th house, which is Capricorn, it becomes 12th from Aquarius. Hence, this is the time period when Aquarius sign natives started going through the rising phase or the first phase of Saturn. And then comes the second phase when the Saturn would transit to the Aquarius sign itself, and that will happen after Saturn spends 2.5 years in the Capricorn. After spending 2.5 years in the Capricorn sign, in the Aquarius sign, when Saturn would again transit to the next house, that will result into the third phase or the final phase or the setting phase of the Saturn Sade Sati. So this entire transit over three Rashis or three houses is actually a Sade Sati for Aquarius. The 12th house, the first house or the Aquarius house itself, and the next house, which is Pisces or Meen Rashi. Now let's also understand the potential effect of an Aquarius sign going through this Sade Sati. Okay, so as we said that the first phase would start when the Saturn would placed in the 12th house of Aquarius. Now when Saturn is placed in the 10th house, it also has several aspects. So Saturn has three aspects. So the first aspect is on the house, is basically on the third house from where the Saturn sits. So the first aspects would be over here. Then second is on the 7th house, which will be on here. And third aspect would be on the 10th house. So this will be over here. So now in this case, this specific house here, which is Pisces, and when Saturn is in this specific Capricorn house, we can say that from Aquarius perspective, this is a second house. This is the 6th house from Aquarius, and this is the 9th house. So how did we calculate? So Saturn's first aspect is the third house from where Saturn sits. So this is the first house, this is the second house, and this is the third house. Hence this aspect. And then the second aspect is the 7th aspect. So Since this is a third house, we can say this is a fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh house. So hence this is the one, and then seventh, eighth, ninth. So my bad, this is actually a seventh aspect. So this is eighth, ninth, and 10th aspect. So from Aquarius perspective, when Saturn is in the 12th house, when Saturn is transiting in the 12th house, it has three aspects. One is on the Aquarius's second house, the second is on Aquarius's sixth house, and third one is on the ninth house. So we'll have to consider all the four houses, the 12th house itself and the other three houses. Now when Saturn is sitting in the 12th house, we can say that person would start feeling isolation. Person, because the 12th house is of isolation, so person might starts feeling low, hopelessness, etc. 12th house is also of sleep, so person might feel restlessness and insomnia. And 12th house indicates also a foreign land or a distant land, so we can say that the person might have a chance of going to abroad as well. And since sixth house also represents a job, we can say that person might get a transfer in the current working environment to some distant land. Now, so when this aspect is on second house, we can say that this person would experience a lack of support from individual's own family. The sixth house aspect, sixth house is also a job related house, so we can say that the individual would experience various hurdles at job, at workplace. Now sixth house also represents hospitalization or medical disease. So, and Saturn is in the 12th house, which is an expense house. So if we combine these two, we can say that individual might experience an expense due to the medical issue or hospitalization. Then we have a third aspect on ninth house. So ninth house is of higher education, and so we can say that there might be hurdles in getting higher education. And ninth house is also basically a house of luck, so any promotions or appraisals would also might get delayed because of this impact. So to summarize, during the first phase or the rising phase, a person might face financial issues because second house is a wealth house. Family, so second house also represents family. Debt, sixth house represents debt, and 12th house represents isolation. And of course, we said that higher education or ninth house related issues. So these all are basically impacts one person might feel during the first phase of Sade Sati. Then coming to the second phase or the peak phase. Now this second phase would happen when Saturn would be transiting from Capricorn to Aquarius sign. Okay, so like in this case, as per the current Gochar, Saturn is already placed in Aquarius. So we can say that this is the peak phase for Aquarius sign, and usually the peak phase is considered to be the most negative and difficult phase of Sade Sati. Now, if Saturn is placed over here, it's going to affect this house itself, and in addition to that, it will have aspects. So the first aspect, which is on the third position, so it's basically going to be this one. The second aspect would be on the seventh, so it's going to be this one, and the third aspect, which is on the 10th house from Saturn's place. So this is basically the third house from Aquarius. This is a seventh house, and this is a 10th house. So since now we can say that Saturn is placed in the first house uh, because of the natal moon is sitting in Aquarius, so we can say Saturn is sitting in the first house. First house also represents the self, the individual himself or herself. So in this case, the person might feel mental anxiety, overthinking. Person might feel, uh, person starts feeling the self doubts, and even the health might have an impact. because the first house is the person's body itself. So health might also have an issue. Now, third house has an aspect of Saturn, so we can say that it might impact the relationship with siblings because third house represents siblings. Seventh house is basically a house of your partner, of your spouse, and it also represents business partnerships. So we can say that during this phase, one's relationship with the spouse might be strained, and usually uh, the people who might face divorce or separation from spouse. So this is a potential period where they experience this kind of scenarios. Since seventh house is also of business partnerships, the individual might face a slow growth in business due to the seventh house aspect. Now, 10th house is definitely it's basically of career. It also represents father. So one might expect um, basically one may not expect the outcomes proportion to the hard work that person does. Even though person might have put lots of efforts, but uh, the outcomes would not be felt or experienced, and it will get delayed. And since it's a career house, there could be a potential job loss as well uh, during this transit. So, to summarize the second phase or the peak phase, the person would experience health issues, relationships, career, and job related problems. Now, these results might be experienced in different intensities due to various reasons, and some of the reasons are basically, uh, I mean, the, we can say that if when the Saturn is basically sitting in its own sign, Capricorn is also its own sign, and uh, in the seventh Rashi, which is Libra, Saturn is exalted, and also when Saturn is sitting in the Jupiter's sign. So, in these kind of scenarios, of course, the individual would go through the trials and difficulties, but it might be little less compared to the other natives uh, because of either the Saturn owning these Rashis, let's say Aquarius and Capricorn, exalted in Libra. So, or maybe it's a Saturn's friend's Rashi. In those cases, the effects could be different than other natives. So then Saturn would, after 2.5 years in the Aquarius, eventually Saturn would transit to the next house, which is Pisces. And this would start the third phase or the final phase or setting phase. And this is considered to be a less malefic than the previous two phases. Still, there would be challenges. So let us assume that Saturn has transited to the Pisces or this specific house, and in this case let us consider the aspects. So first is the third aspect, and second is the seventh aspect, and the last one is the 10th aspect. So basically we can say that from Aquarius perspective, the first aspect is happening on the fourth house from Aquarius. The second aspect is happening in the eighth house, and the last aspect happens to be in 11th house. And of course, it affects the house where it sits, which is the second house. So, second house is of person's wealth, family, speech. So, we can say that in this scenario, the person's speech might become harsh and that could hurt people. Also, second house indicates eating habits. So, due to bad eating habits, person might face issues, health issues. And of course, since it's a wealth house, it indicates financial problems as well. Now, considering the fourth house here, fourth house represents mother, vehicles, land. So basically, health of the mother might get affected in this period, and expenditure related to one's vehicles or one's own house could also be possible during this phase. Coming to the eighth aspect, eighth house represents sudden losses, occult, inheritance, etc. So we can say that during this period, person may experience hurdles in getting inheritance, and since it is associated with occult, there could be some spiritual uh, alignment of that individual during this period, because the final phase also indicates a spiritual growth for that individual. On the 11th aspect, 11th house is a house of gains, friends, relatives. So there could be a lack of support from friends and relatives due to this aspect. And I think one more point I would highlight here, that since 8th house also represents the secret affairs, so there is a possibility that if at all it is there, individual's secret affair may get revealed, and that would result into the relationship issues. So 8th house also represents in-laws. So basically, spouse and in-laws, there could be differences because of this. So if we summarize the third setting phase, uh, we can say it's less malefic because the intensity would be lesser during this phase, the compared to previous two phases. And at the end of this phase, customer might experience, my bad, the individual might experience some rewards. Rewards meaning some good things might happen. Let's say somewhere if the money was stuck, that would be realized. Some debt which was there, the burden would be kind of lessened down, and good things would start happening. So if there is a promotion which was delayed in the job for last few years due to the first and second phase, at the end of the third phase there is a possibility that the individual might get that promotion. And due to this roller coaster ride during this Sade Sati, person is likely to basically experience the spiritual growth as well. So that's pretty much it about overall Sade Sati period. Now you might have also heard about Shani's Dahiya. So basically, apart from Sade Sati, there are uh, there are two signs which experiences the Shani's Dahiya. So when we say Saturn is here, fourth and eighth house from one's moon sign where Saturn is placed, they would experience Shani's Dahiya. So let's identify these two signs. So first is going to be the Scorpio sign, because from Scorpio, Aquarius is the fourth house. So first, second, third, and fourth. Hence, Scorpio is the first sign that is currently going through the Shani's Dahiya. And the second sign is a Cancer, because from Cancer, it's basically the eighth house where Saturn is currently placed. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Hence, these two signs are currently going through the Saturn's Dahiya period. So again, during this period also, the native of these two signs would experience various challenges. Let's say it could be health related, relationship related, job related, or financial aspects related issues. So it is likely to happen during this Dahiya period as well. So we'll talk about the remedies which one can do during this period in the next video. For now, I am confident that if you are to see the horoscope and identify if a particular Rashi is going through Shani's Sadesati or Dahiya period, that you can identify using this approach. Please provide your comments on my videos. And if you like my videos, do subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for your time.